Hey, I'm Eric Haugen. Check the description box below for information about exactly what sound tools I'm using and all the links to my website and stuff like that. Music Theory Review Day, because we're going to be doing some more advanced stuff starting next month. I'm going to be doing jazz for rockers, so I want to make sure that we are cool with these 7 things. If we know these 7 things, we're ready to add to it. If we're not strong on these 7 things, let's take some time to really chip away at this. Here we go. Thing number 1, notes on the fretboard. This rule, let's just make sure we're cool with this. All the notes are 2 frets apart, except for E and F and B and C, which are right next to each other. Right next to each other. So, yeah, you really gotta sit around. I'm just gonna use my fingers. E, F, G, A, B, C's right there, D, E. Same thing over here. A, B, think it through. C, D, E, F, G, and then A. And of course, yes, do that to all the strings. And a couple of things about that. The first thing is, notice I say to not bother, memorizing E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, because our brain doesn't do as well if there's no landmarks. So the notes aren't equivalent. Like as a guitarist, you're a lot more likely to be playing millions more G's in your life than you're going to play F sharps. So I think it's more important to memorize the natural notes and then using logic know where the sharps and flats are by either nudging it one way or the other way. And let's make sure we are the bestest at the low E and the A, because that's going to be the root of any triad, arpeggio, chord, scale, whatever it is. It tends to be rooted down here and built up that way. So that's thing 1. Let's just make sure we got that we got that dead on, so we don't get lost on the fretboard. Next thing, let's make sure we just accept that this is our major scale formula. Yeah, we can go into whole, whole, half, and this, that, the other thing, and why that is, but it's actually faster and takes up less space in our mind if we're just like, dude, that's what it looks like. So let's hear that. That's a G major scale. Here it is. Okay, so now we know the notes on our fretboard, and we've accepted that that is what a major scale looks like, which is the root of Western music, which is mostly what I'm assuming we are all, watching videos on YouTube about, ultimately one way or the other. Now that means we know the notes that are in that key. Boom, there's the notes that are in the key of G major. You can see G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Let's talk about that F sharp for a minute. You can't have, because sometimes people go G, A, B, C, D, E. Eric, is that a G flat or an F sharp? And G, it's an F sharp because we can't have 2 G's of different varieties in the same scale. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Okay, that's pretty cool. We understand the notes in the key of G, but let's pull back for a second. That means theoretically we know the notes in any key without having to do the circle of fifths again. I've talked about this in my Where to Start with Music Theory series, so I'm basically recondensing that into a quick one so that we could then do Jazz for Rockers next month. So that means I could go up to like E flat, and just looking down at my fretboard, taking some time to be like E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. Ooh, now I know the notes in the key of E flat, and therefore, if you pull out or extrapolate further, that means you have the notes for any key just by doing it this way. It's not the most, music theory school appropriate way, but it is definitely the dumb rock guitar player who can kind of make his way through just about anything way of doing things. So that also means you're not done with this after you've mastered G. Get some scrap paper out and be like, okay, B flat. Do I know where my B flat major scale is? Okay, let me play it. Now let me sit down and write down the notes in B flat. You got to do that, because if you want to be able to on the fly adapt, you have to have prepared yourself to adapt. You can't expect that of yourself, that you'll just know when you're in that situation. That's a lot of practice is like that. You have to prepare yourself for a lot of situations, and then, hopefully when they happen, you're good. Now, if we know that those are the notes, the next thing that again, there's reasons for all this, but ultimately, if I think about the way my brain works, I don't think about the reasons anymore. I did it, in high school when I took music theory, and then I just memorized, that's how the chords work in a major key. 1, 4, and 5 are major, 2, 3, 6 are minor, 7 is the scary, but it's not really that scary. It's a diminished triad, but diminished triads are hard to play on the instrument, so we add one more note, and it becomes minor 7, flat 5. Philip Seymour Hoffman, minor 7, flat 5. We can remember his name. We can remember that minor 7, flat 5s exist. They're beautiful chords. We're not going to play them all the time, but sometimes they show up, and we don't want to just have our brain just do the buffering spinning wheel thing that your computer does, where it's like, I don't know that. Oh, I'm stuck. That's what it looks like. It's like an A minor chord with an F sharp on the bottom. Check it. Let's go to a B7. Now let's hear those chords in the key of G. Okay, let's get my pick out. 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor. And yep, here's Philip Seymour Hoffman. And that's true for every major key. So that now means, in theory, that you can go and find not only the major scale and the notes for any key, but then the chords for that key. So writers, that's very useful as a writer, that you can do that. You don't have to be stuck in the 2 keys that you know very well. You can nudge yourself around and end up in some new places. Now, the next thing about writing and analysis is, if we want to know how to make up cool stuff, we need to know what came before. What's the standard stuff that we can then know that people expect to hear, because that's just the way our ears work? And then how can we subvert that or mess with that? So let's look at some of these standard progressions. And again, some of these are church cadences. 1, 4, 5, 1 is the perfect authentic cadence. That's just folk music. That's church hymns. G, C, D, G. Yeah, that's a perfect authentic cadence. Meh by now, right? It's fine, but yeah, we tend to avoid that. The second one on the list there, plagal, and this gets used all the time. It's not even really a cadence. It's just 1 going up to a 4, back down to a 1, up to a 4. So much Velvet Underground. Yeah. Oh, David Bowie, Heroes. Yep. I guess it does hit a 5. Yeah, I mean, so many songs are 1 to 4 for a verse, because it's a great way to get a lift off of that 1 chord without going, you're looking for another major chord, but you don't want to go all the way to 5, so many times they'll just go to a 4. One that I like to do a lot if I'm trying out, I bumped the mic, if I'm trying out chords or things, is the Dead Flowers progression, which is actually 1, 5, 4, 1. Just that simple reversal of the order does make it different. Here's the 5 now. There's the 4. Somehow reversing that is nicer. Let's visit some of the minor ones. I purposely, by the way, ignored the 1, 5, 6, 4. I'm sick of the Axis of Awesome, the Let It Be progression, the Jason Mraz, I'm Yours, the Don't Stop Believin'. I'm sick of it. It's nice, actually, but it's just played out. Let's go to the one that used to be popular, before that one was popular. 1-6-2-5. Oh man, all the old jazz and swing. This thing dominated until like Elvis Presley. This progression was the progression. Let's see. So in G, that's a 1, a 6, a 2, and a 5. Fast. It's that. I got rhythm, I got my girl. If you slow it down, though, it's also doo-wop. We're not going to worry about those little slightly colorful chords I put in. We're going to be talking about those next month in the Jazz for Rockers. We've actually all been listening to jazz. It shows up in everything, really. If we realize that jazz is just old pop music, you start to realize, the influence is everywhere. If you listen to David Bowie, you've actually been listening to like jazz fusion. Last one. 1, 3, 4, 1. The band, the weight. I wanted something that uses some of the other minor chords, Let's see. So in G, that would be. How's that turn? Classic. So, what I suggest to do is obviously be good at those, but again, with your scrap paper and you're writing stuff down, can you do a 1-3-4-1 in B flat? Can you do a 1-6-2-5 in E? Can you do a 1-5-4-1 in A? Stuff is going to happen as you sit around and do this. You'll end up writing new songs once we force ourselves to get out of, the ruts that we know. Nothing wrong with the ruts that we know, but you're watching videos on YouTube because you want some more information. And so I'm here to try and make it simple. So really that's the first 4 things, which is like, that's huge right there because that's a lot of keys. It's actually a lot of solid stuff that you can add to, because that's always my concern, is making sure that we have a really sturdy foundation so that when we reach for something new, we know where to put it, that it makes sense. It's not an island. I call them cognitive islands, where you're like, I saw a thing on YouTube about modes of melodic minor. Cool. I mean, I don't even use modes of melodic minor. I don't really like them. But, that you have, because if you reach for something far, and then you get confused. So anyway, that's my concern, is that make sure our foundation is really strong, because it's not actually, music theory makes sense. It all makes sense, but as you can see, there's just not a quick explanation for it. It does require patience and scrap paper and like trying things out and moving them around. So now the second half of this, which is just basically going to be doing the same thing, but with minor, because minor is the yang to the yin, the dark to the light, hot, cold, etc., etc. Dichotomy is everywhere throughout music. And so, if you got happy, you got sad. I don't even think of it as sad, though, anymore. It just feels human. Anyway, here's E minor, which just accept that that's the deal. That's what a minor scale looks like. Notice the opens there, because I wanted to keep it relative minor to G, but I'm not going to go into relative minors. I don't think they're actually terribly useful. That tells us the notes for a minor scale, and that's the minor form. So let's think about that. As its own thing. We're not thinking about this as key of G, because that would be disrespectful to the tonal center of E. That's not a G. And remember that music is all about fundamental frequencies and then other frequencies interacting with that fundamental frequency. So I know that the Nashville number system likes to make everything major. That's cool for that. If that works for you, that's great. I don't like it. I think I like having minors be minors. Here's our notes in the key of E minor. But notice, they're the same as G, but again, tonal center is E. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. that means also then we can extrapolate out and get the chords as they relate to that. So again, you can use this to stick a minor scale wherever you want and then generate the chords. Like, okay, so let's back out one. So we know we got that, right? Let's move it up to F sharp. You know, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp. There's my notes in the key of F sharp minor, which, yeah, that's a big, you know, Tom Petty Refugee. Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song. Oh, isn't it? Yeah, F sharp minor is a great rock key. But anyway, yeah, you can use that concept to find all your minor key stuff, you know, just like you did. And notice, yeah, I'm like, minors are one thing, majors are another thing. So I like to keep it that way. Chordally, though, let's look again. Now 1 is E minor, because tonal center, resonant frequency, fundamental resonating pitch is E. So we're calling that 1 because it is. 2 is now the minor 7 flat 5, Philip Seymour Hoffman. 3 is a flat 3 because that is its distance relative to that fundamental frequency is a flat 3rd. Again, I'm not going into intervals. They are important. They are a thing, but just accept that. Just, yeah, it's just a flat 3rd. It's a flat 3. That's just how it be. It's because listen to that sound. Oh, is that Depeche Mode? That's a minor 3rd away. 4 is now an A minor. 5 is now a B minor. 6 is now, again, a flat 6 away from the root. A C, natural. Oh, I dropped my pick. Do I have another pick handy? Yeah, I do. Okay. And then D is the flat 7. You know, again, distance to that fundamental pitch. So same thing. Cool, we understand minors. We understand that they're their own thing because of resonant frequencies and fundamentals. There's some standard minor key progressions that are cool to try out. Let's check out. Because again, this is for the purpose of knowing what came before you, knowing what kind of standard things is, so that you could either A, just use them, or tweak them and make them your own. But yeah, it's the, you know, it's like learning phrases of a language. It's one thing to know how the words, the vocabulary is, but let's learn some phrases. 1-4, 1-5 in E minor. What will that sound like? I love that progression. Classic. Another one that is just used so much, it's kind of a minor trope, is the Andalusian cadence. 1, and it's just going to go down the scale. 1, where am I? 1, flat 7, flat 6. 5 is now, notice, capitalized. Because, yeah, in minor, a lot of times, we can go into it, but just know that sometimes they're going to make that 5 major. It makes it more dramatic, it pushes it into harmonic minor. But we'll stop there. Again, I have a whole series of music theory on my channel. I think there's a way to put a link on here. Go over there and check it out. And I've talked about this before. Super cool thing to do. Let's hear how that sounds in E minor, the Andalusian cadence. Very dramatic cadence with that major 5. This one I did include. This is kind of the minor version of the 1-5-6-4. 1, flat 6, flat 3, flat 7. Did I get it right? I'm not even sure I'm looking. There it is. Cranberry Zombie. I call it the minor axis of awesome. This is the one that's kind of, it shows up a lot. So let's see, that'd be, there's our flat 6. Yeah, put an F sharp in the bottom. You can do that. What is it? Something like that. The last one we'll do for today, because this shows up a lot in Latin stuff, also Tom Waits stuff. 2, where am I? 2, 5 is now dominant 7. We tweak it even one further, and then finally the 1. Interesting. Let's see, let's give it a... Super cool, right? Super spooky. There it is. If you got that stuff and then you know, every so often are taking out a scrap paper and like moving it to other keys and like really seeing that you got it, good job. Because yeah, it's going to be so much easier to add to layers rather than you go for something and you're like, oh, actually I'm in the deep end now. I'm out of my depth. This is the best way I know. Like if you got this, you can add to it, and that's it. Like this is, yeah, I just distilled music theory into about 20 minutes is what I try to do. I try to keep it tight. All this stuff I'm gonna go scan in and put on my Patreon page for free, along with that Bob Dylan backing track, that's a track off a Street Legal I kind of am utilizing to kind of give us a vibe here today. Fun thing to play over. Thanks so much to everybody who supports me in all the ways that you do. Let's run it down. Like, subscribe, share is actually a new one I'm noticing is actually pretty significant to my bottom line. If you like these videos and you're like, yo, Reddit, yo, Facebook, or whatever else, you pop it out over there. I actually see a huge jump in numbers, which means traffic, that's how I make my living, by the traffic getting generated. And then people going to my website to either book one-on-one music lessons with me, which a lot of times it's kind of consulting. It's almost like life coach music consulting I tend to do a lot of these days, which is super fun for me. I have courses that I make in partnership with the people at Truefire. The caged one, if you haven't taken that, that's the best seller. I think I must have done something right. I've really distilled, the best I could, how all the shapes work, again, to lay a foundation upon which everything else can lay. And then with Patreon, you have discount codes for my website, as well as a monthly live stream that patrons at a certain level get access to ask me questions, and it's kind of little private lessons I do on there also. That's how I do this. As Bill and Ted would say, be excellent to each other. That includes yourself. Happy Friday. Eat pizza.